This is an example of how much detail we put into the corrosion protection and sealing process after an E46 subframe repair and reinforcement. Looking at the right front mount now, it's had etched primer on the bare metal and then a high build primer, which is this black. Now we're going to do a sprayable seam sealer, and rather than just throwing it on and slapping it on, we're going to do a detailed sealer like we do on all of them, and just show you how we do this. Now we're onto the left front mount, and notice there's no brake pipes in the way. Brake pipes normally go up here and just by the roof up here. We remove all that so that we can make sure that nothing is sprayed over. And that's in real time, there's no slow motion there, so you see how much control I've got over that gun. So if I need to put something down heavier or lighter like that, I can go slow and controlled, where a lot of the other sprayable applicators do fire it on so quickly that it becomes quite messy. And even us years ago used things like that when starting off, but as you process, you find better equipment and better ways to make a neater job. We're onto the left rear mount now. So the idea behind that is a low volume but high pressure first pass, so we can go over the welded areas, weld lines, the perimeter of the plate, and make sure that the uneven surface that a weld bead leaves can be covered, so that when moisture and water eventually get on this when it's on the road, it's going to give it more protection. So then now we can then go over that with a heavier pass to make that textured finish to try and match the rest of the area, which would have been factory sealed before we started our process. And there we go, that's nice and flat. Doesn't show much of a blend there because they're totally different colours, but the textures are very similar to the OEM finish, so that can then cure overnight, and then we can put the colour application on. So here's the right rear mount, and the other thing it's good at is because the body of this gun is all to the rear of the head, you can get up into areas that other guns don't have. So for instance, this is the spring perch, and when we have issues of the panel dropping away, we do stitch welding to hold the panel to the inside chassis legs, which is what these penetration marks are from inside cabin welding. And then we also do some stitch welding here to hold the spring perch to the rear axle carrier panel. So where we've removed the seam sealer in these lines here, we can get very close and do a low volume, high pressure burst to make sure we fill up gaps like this before just doing a general spray. Because if you just come along and do a general spray, it will cover it, but there's no guarantee you've injected seam sealer into the folded joins, which is what the robots do at the factory. So we know we've got some high pressure into that sealer, which is going to force it into those joins, and then when we do a cover over, we know that we've got as a good seal. And then what we like to do is the two areas that we don't weld, we don't have to weld because those are holes to allow the OEM studs to poke through, is that we'll also inject some sealer, low volume but again high pressure, to make sure we get it into that joint to try and seal up that area as well. now I can increase the volume and cover this area. And then what I'd normally do on a joint like this, which is too large a gap to allow a wet sealer like this to be sprayed and cover it, I'll then use a brush and then make sure that joint is covered to give an OEM look. So we're looking at the left rear side lip, the area that we have always identified spot welds failing in these areas, and we belt sand those out and plug weld those, and then we also do a stitch weld on the outside. So just on the other side up here, all the way down this seam to about here, and then that's shaped, and we spend a bit of time to make it look good, and then that's what it looks like now. Now we've done a sprayable seam sealer over it, and we're pretty, we like that. We think it looks good and original. So now on the outside we can move out and do the outside. So we've done a first light pass, trying to get injection into the seamed area and anywhere where we know needs protecting. So what we're looking for there is like a wet look, almost like as if you were spray painting. And what we've been able to do is build that up very, very gradually, but thick. So it's in this area here, it's very thick. So there's the line that we've used. So that's the factory sealer up there, and that's where it was bare metal. And we've now blended pretty much level with it. The way the torch and the camera are looking, it still shows a shadow, but it's very thick. And now what we can do with a brush or even sometimes a finger is then just make sure these areas are sealed by touching them. And then we can let that dry overnight, and that's the important thing. We don't rush it. We don't then try and put paint on it or try and build the car, because it's not going to seal. We leave that overnight, and then once it's fully hardened, that is a really hard sealer, and it continues to go hard over the coming days. And then we'll put base coat on that and colour it, and then a clear coat lacquer on it tomorrow morning. And that's what it looks like from a distance, standing back. So we've got a left front plate there, and then we also do sealer seal on the areas that we know suffer from corrosion because of panel flex. There's the right front there. All those white dots are just an overspray of seam sealer, I suppose you'd call that. Sealed turret, right rear plate, left rear plate, sealed spring perch and side lip, and then moving out into the arch. That's all been sealed up as well. And we know during the video you could see a little area where there was a weld dent somewhere on this front right plate, so we can go back and touch that up, which is what we've done to make a waterproof seal. And the same, I think there was a weld dent up here I saw on the video. Now you can see there's no gap. That's been touched in, so it's waterproof seal ready for when the car's on the road.